Welcome to another episode of Deloitte Green Dot Conversations. I'm Rameshni Naidu, the CIO Program Leader for Deloitte Africa. In this episode, recorded as part of Investing in African Mining Indaba 2025, we'll be delving into intelligent mine planning with Deloitte partner Anaplan. Mining is a serious business, which is why we decided to do something a little different. Before this episode was recorded at Deloitte's Cape Town offices, the team hosted a round of friendly games of paddle for our alliances and clients. While we were courtside, we took a few minutes to get some context of Anaplan and Deloitte's presence at Indaba, as well as some insight into the ecosystem and transforming mining altogether.
My name is Andries van den Berg. I'm the partner that leads finance performance for Deloitte Africa, and I'm also the alliance leader for Anaplan. We've been Anaplan's global partner of the year for the last 10 years. We've invested a lot of time and effort with Anaplan in the last year to really invigorate and educate the market together, and we think there's a wonderful opportunity for the mining industry to come and experience what connected planning is all about, breaking down those silos, enjoy planning and not hate it anymore, and that's what we do. We're professional painkillers.
Hi, my name is Jofia Alexander and I am the Regional Director for Anaplan Africa. So as you can hear in the background, we're playing paddle, which is an amazing sort of thing to do here at the Mining Indaba event. So please don't mind the noise. We're here to support Deloitte in the markets here in Africa. The mining industry is one of the largest industries here, and it's one of our focus areas to really enhance the brand positioning of Anaplan, and also to bring new ways of thinking around connected planning for the mining industry.
Good evening, everyone. I hope that for most of you've had a good day at the Mining Indaba. I can see some of you still have some sweat from the paddle. So I hope you had some fun out there and we got you invigorated and got you some energy for the session that we're about to have. So our focus is very much on Anaplan and really talking about how you can get to an end state from your mining capabilities from a planning point of view, and why this whole topic of intelligent mine planning is important. And so really looking forward to being able to see what our panel members have to say about it. So let's start with Andries. Tell me a bit about the insights of Anaplan in your mind. How do you see it really transforming the operational processes and all of the financial planning processes that the mining industry has to run? And very much touch for me a bit about from a resilience of an organization, as well as trying to create future-ready leadership in an organization. How do you see Anaplan really working in this space? What's your thoughts?
What you'll find in the mining space is planning is quite a labor-intensive process. I've seen mines that basically plan the whole year. One half of the year is long-range planning, next half of the year is budgeting, and then they just go at it. Now, the problem when you are in what we call jokingly Excel hell is that you're just going to plan and plan and plan and plan, and you're never going to actually get to realize those plans or give plans that's viable. Now, where Anaplan comes in is we work with our clients on the platform to take that pain away. So anything that can be automated, anything that can be streamlined, anything that we can workflow, we want to bring that together as quickly as possible so that you can go from an annual planning business to a quarterly forecasting business, to a monthly forecasting business, to a weekly forecast. So the whole concept of planning is that it's always a process that you want to continuously improve and expand your planning capability. Now, we can create what we call the honeycomb effect. And basically, your own organization and your planning capabilities can be shown like a honeycomb, and then we work with you to light up the different use cases that you think is going to give you the most value And those then get interconnected with that. And that's kind of like how you build your organization with the future in mind, because there's going to be a curveball that's going to come at you that requires you to build out another use case, because Anaplan is so easy that the business can own it. They can do that themselves and then build out more and more use cases.
Jofi, just picking up on that, if we think about the mining sector, especially here in the Africa context, what do you see as kind of the unique challenges that the African mining sector faces? And how would you say a tool like Anaplan, how can it address these challenges?
With regards to mining, I think it's very similar to many other industries, so it's not necessarily unique in its own right. What we see with customers managing data, they typically have lots of data in an organization, and they've got a variety of underlying technologies like your ERPs, your CRMs, your HR systems. The challenge is that those systems were never geared up to actually do planning per se. And typically what happens is the individual sort of departments extract information out of those systems, and it goes into tools like Excel, because we're familiar with Excel. And it's created what we call at Anaplan the messy middle. I know you called it Excel. It's a very similar concept, but everyone's got their own version of the truth, and there's no sort of harmony between the decision making. So what we're trying to do is actually eliminate that mess and create that fabric across those source systems. So we don't necessarily replace those underlying systems. We add value on top of those to leverage the data from those systems, and then that then allows those silos to break up. And Andrew talks about the honeycomb effect. Those different areas of the honeycombs represent different lines of businesses. So finance, HR, supply chain, and so on. And by breaking down those barriers, we speed up the decision making. And it's not just about reporting historic information, it's also about looking forward, running scenarios, models, and being able to actually be more agile in your decision making.
Andre, tell us a little bit about Kamoa Copper in terms of the implementation of Anaplan. How has that implementation gone? And if you had to think practically on a day-to-day operations basis, what have you seen? And in the context of this whole smart operations and trying to get data-driven decision-making that we talk about, tell us if you've seen that come to life and what the Anaplan implementation has meant for you.
For those that aren't aware, Kamoa Copper is it's a pretty big copper mining company situated in the DRC. Honestly, it's actually quite a beast of a company. This huge thing out in the jungle that's new and developing much quicker than the systems can. Ramp-ups just happen at incredible speeds, even though it's situated in Africa, and you'd think it could happen slower because of supply chains and so on. Yeah. It just happens so quickly. So we found ourselves in a place where systems were just lacking and behind. And full disclosure, like Anaplan's not fully implemented at Kamoa yet, all right? But that's what I found to be one of the best things with regards to Anaplan, is that you can implement in like a phased approach. So you start somewhere, do something, and then you move on. But that said, we started with MVP, or phase one, of our multiple phase approach to the Anaplan project. And the idea there was just to cover the basics of budgeting and production planning. What I did when I started there was I built these massive Excel models, because systems were so disconnected that you end up pulling everything together in Excel. So started building these massive models that, you're running 2 or 3 at a time. They're 250 megs each, for those that know what that means. And you kind of have to run them in sequence, and they break and they fall apart, and it's just absolute headache. Yeah. And just for MVP, we've already gone from that to something that's smooth, agile, it's secure, and it's taken us to a place where already we can run multiple really complex scenarios and get answers really quickly and make decisions that are good for the business. And that's just MVP.
Tell me, Andres, let's get back to you. In terms of a great positive of what could come out from an Anaplan implementation, I'm sure with that there's also a lot of challenges when you run Anaplan implementation. So talk me through some of the biggest challenges that you've seen that's being faced during the implementation, and kind of what was used to help to overcome these challenges?
So I think that when you embark on a process to make an improvement to your planning capabilities, which is arguably your only view going forward, that's not something that you want to assign to your B team. So what I found with other projects, not Kamoa, because we obviously got the A team, but in other projects where they give you the people that's available, not necessarily the experts in the field, that creates some hassles. Because it is so easy to build, it is so quick to develop, we want to almost spend 60% of the time to design to make sure that we get that business requirement spot on, and then use the rest of the time just to configure it to test. Now, if you don't invest the time and effort and the thinking power into that design process, you can only get what you are going to put into it. So get the best people, the best SMEs that you can to think about the process that you want to work, and don't try to eat too much. We are in Africa and we eat elephants in little itty bitty bits. And the way that Andre described it, where to find something that's easy, that you understand really well, and deliver that value, then you move on to your next honeycomb. A lot of times, especially in the mining sector, I've seen people put out RFPs for a 2-year scope of work. The thing with something like Anaplan is you start seeing the value that you unlock within the first month or two. But now you've already given your vendor 3 years worth of scope that they need to get perfect for them to deliver on, which then you want to now change lanes and maybe go in a different direction. When you're tied up with like a very complicated RFP response, that's going to make things difficult. So start small with the aim to improve. And I think the beauty of Anaplan is usually when we work with finance, we work with a lot of Excel ninjas already. So they're good with Excel, but now they want a platform. So we know that they've got the modeling capabilities, but if they do the training, the same training we do, they can actually build alongside us, and then we can start taking a step back and advise them on the very complicated stuff as they then carry on building. And that's the beauty of Anaplan, is where you put it in the hands of business and that you're not beholden to a consultant for the rest of your life. We get it right every now and again, but things happen in business that doesn't allow everybody to train at the pace that we want them to, and then we'll support them through that process as well. So those are just 3 things that I've seen go a little bit sideways, but we always manage to knock it back on track.
Jovi, tied to that, we spoke about phasing an Anaplan implementation, thinking about value as you go through that. How do you see it, though, linking to the strategic goals of the organization? And how do you actually take Anaplan and ensure that as you're implementing, that you truly are ensuring that it's part of what the strategy is for that organization? Many
clients of ours are thinking big and starting small. So they've got a clear vision in mind, bringing data into a centralized place. We have a component in Anaplan called the Data Orchestrator, which allows you to seamlessly plug and play into all the various data sources. So by bringing that information into that central place, it underpins the honeycomb effect. And we work with partners like Deloitte to try and work out what the key priorities are. That's going to drive the quickest time to value. And there's no right or wrong order in which you do these honeycombs. I think from a strategic point of view, the key things are that with Anaplan, you can align the strategic sort of planning with your operational planning in that same environment, whereas other technologies require multiple tools to do all those different use cases and to address that sort of strategic vision. With Anaplan, you've got that one sort of, I would say, code base in a sense that allows your end users to be able to actually build themselves. We have a zero code environment which allows end users who know Excel to pick up the platform and partner with Deloitte to do that. I would say the sort of founding principles of Anaplan, when our founders set up this vision for Anaplan in 2006, was that it needed to be scalable, it needed to be able to handle huge volumes of data. It needs to be able to be user-friendly, so it needs to be owned by the business. So being able to manage the models themselves rather than relying on IT, and just being able to do that in a connected way.
And I think if I can add to that, the big value unlocks come when you start going across functions. So usually we get to speak to CFOs because they've got a budgeting problem. But you wouldn't believe it, but people do workforce planning in Excel as well. You wouldn't believe it, people do sales performance management, procurement. That's the easy answer when you're in trouble. And that's where, if you really want to unlock value across the organization, get all the functions involved, because the output of their plans become input to other plans. And if you use this honeycomb effect and actually connect those answers to each other, you can run organizational-wide scenarios quite quickly.
A couple of other examples in South Africa is Nedbank. So Nedbank are a customer of Anaplan. They've been using Anaplan for strategic workforce planning. Their target operating model is changing from a bricks and mortar to a more online, sort of a combination of the two types of services, because they see their demographics of their customer changing. They're getting more younger and they need to be able to access. So they're looking at the workforce of the future, and they're using Anaplan to model, which branches to actually to shut and what knock-on effect that has into contact centres, into online. The other example would be Mediclinic, based in Stellenbosch. They use Anaplan for global workforce planning for 40,000 of their medical practitioners, their surgeons, their nurses, and so on. And also they use Anaplan for their global FP&A processes. And they're combining that together. They're now looking at supply chain, looking at their high cost of inventory. So you start a journey somewhere, but it evolves over time. Yeah.
Andre, we spoke now about the strategic goals of the organization. When you think about Anaplan and how you've started putting it into the organization, do you see that coming to life? And if you had to think about the future now of Anaplan in your organization and where you're moving from a planning and a forecasting perspective, or in this honeycomb world that we've been speaking about, where do you see the benefits? And do you see this, we've heard that the strategy needs to come together with the operations and bringing it all together. Do you think that realistically you're starting to see some of that and you can see it in the future plans coming together?
Yeah, definitely. We see the benefits a little now, because I've been with Kamoa now 3 years, and like Andre said, I've been budgeting for 3 years. So I'm finally getting to do something else. So I think a lot of it has to do with Anaplan allows us to get the data that's not just like current, but actually living. Before I started with this project, I thought, if I've got pretty live data, and what I mean by that is I'd run a SQL query to get a table to dump into a different workbook that runs a bunch of formulas and then gets me a report, and just data report in kind of a structured way, and then from there I get it into like a pivot chart and I can show some graphics. That is not living data, And the biggest thing that I see, the biggest change that I see for us is exactly getting rid of all of that and actually opening up your dashboards and having real live data that kind of shows you what's going on in the business. Currently, we don't have the actual side of it yet, but I do see that living data for budgeting, forecasting, and actuals, And I think that's when the big difference is gonna come. That's when kind of the magic happens, is when you can make really quick decisions. If it's small tweaks to production goals or production targets or changing supply chain strategies. These are things that seemed impossible to do quickly, right? Because they were all so scattered. But now it's not. It's all together. It's kind of the same data. Everyone's looking at the same data. So you can make these decisions quickly. And ultimately, that's going to be beneficial to the business. Doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're at a budgeting phase or whether you're busy with your actuals and reporting. Being able to have that data really quickly and make decisions on it, I think that's what's going to make the difference.
So I think we spent some time kind of going, what's been happening in the Anaplan world? How do we bring it to life? what the realities of that could look like. Some opportunities. I heard a lot about the honeycomb, so I'll always remember the word honeycomb now when I think about Anaplan. But now I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to go, let's look into the future. So, if Anaplan's there today, what does it look like into the future? So, Andries, tell us a little bit about, in terms of technology evolving, where do you see Anaplan kind of evolving to with our clients as they think about how they can evolve this technology into the future?
I think there's a lot of exciting stuff going on globally. Every time I open my news app, there's some new crazy technology coming at us, and I think we see it in the planning space as well. Something like conversational reporting, where there's Gen AI built into the platform to say, well, I need a report that reflects the sales of this, this, and this, put it together, and it outputs exactly what you need, that you can then present based on live data that you can then also tweak up and down to see those changes in front of you. I think artificial intelligence, machine learning, the beauty comes in for me when you can take a machine-driven answer and compare it to a human-driven answer, uncover the 10% of deviation that's between those two plans and talk about that. Why would a machine that's been trained to look at all the historics project this, and you are projecting either higher or lower? And we have a real conversation about those. The rest of the 80% that matches, we assume that matches. We want to manage by exception. I mean, there's optimizer, where you've got particular goals and you've got a lot of variables to get us to that goal. The optimizer runs through all of those scenarios and says, this is the best possible way that you can get to that goal, and give you 5 different scenarios for getting there. You as a business can then go have a look at it, pick the scenario, run it out, and see how you need to adjust as you go. So I think what excites me is, if you can imagine it, we can create a honeycomb around it. But it takes a bit of discovery to what's the art of the possible, how do we make it work. But I've seen very little that currently lives on an Excel spreadsheet that we can't replicate in this platform, and that makes me quite excited.
I guess, Jofi, with that, if we think about Anaplan product-wise into the future, is there any of the new tech trends that we hear about? So we heard a little bit of Andries speak about AI, Gen AI, machine learning, that we hear all of these buzzwords. Do you see the product roadmap of Anaplan evolving in these spaces? Where's Anaplan going into the future?
So about 3 months ago, Anaplan announced $500 million product investment into our roadmap over the next 3 years, which is a huge investment for a vendor, software vendor. It's focusing heavily on getting the underlying data orchestration, bringing all the different parts of an organization together through a more streamlined workflow process, approval process, and so on. We've also got machine learning with AWS, so we leverage AWS as a platform to host Anaplan for our customers globally, but we can also leverage their data assets that they have, so we can use internal data from the client or third-party data. So that exists today. The area that we are focusing on at the moment is around the generative AI and also out-of-the-box applications, because a lot of the use cases that you see in the honeycombs are quite, I would say, core to most organizations. So we have an application strategy where we're going to deliver out-of-the-box value. So rather than having to build from scratch each time, you can actually start from a base where this is based on thousands of implementations across different industries. So we give you a blueprint in a sense as an app, and then from that it brings tremendous speed to value, and then being able to extend in the more, I would say, specific honeycomb areas that may be relevant to a specific client. So you're going to start to see more applications around finance, supply chain, workforce, sales. Every app is going to have Gen AI infused in it. So as you get the applications, that ability to ask the questions, via voice into the app is there for end users to be able to get that insight from that huge volume of data and be able to action on it.
And that's good to hear. I think, we're hearing about tools of the future that, like we heard about the internet in the past, and everyone was, going, what is HTTP? No one really asks that question anymore. Everyone just knows the internet. In the future, the expectation is that all tools will have embedded AI. AI is no longer going to become the words that we use. We'll just have an expectation. So it's good to hear that Anaplan's roadmap and strategy has a lot of that embedded into it. Andre, if you had to give advice, to the clients out there or to those that are thinking about Anaplan, what advice would you give them in terms of the adoption of Anaplan? What would you tell them to look out for in terms of good, bad, and ugly of what you've seen of it?
Maybe we've done something massively wrong, because in all honesty, I'm not pumping Anaplan here, but the ugly hasn't been as much as I think maybe you're imagining it. It could be, So one of the things Andres touched on is you need to have the right people. In our case, I do think we've got, apart from myself, we've got the best people on the job, So you need to have the right people there. But the right people also have to be really invested in it. So if I have to think about kind of the uglies, it's your best people they tend to get really busy, because if there's a problem, you give them the problem, and they'll solve it eventually. The worst part for us so far is having our best people on the team, but not being able to have them there fully, and fully focused on the project. So if you can, I'd say definitely allocate your best people, but then make sure there's someone else to cover their dailies, because an Anaplan implementation, although it may be one of the best things that you do for your business, it could be really, really difficult and time consuming and I guess expensive if you're doing it like halfway, having your good people on the job or on the project and then not letting them spend the most of their time there or the time that's needed there. Because it just ends up extending the period of time they spend there. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I'd say, don't overthink it. Andres mentioned the RFQ. I know it was like that for us. We wanted the whole plan up front and wanted to know exactly what this tool was going to do and how we're going to get there and when we're going to get there and so on. We ended up delaying implementing a solution for 3 years. Until eventually we said, let's take one thing. Just take one part of the business, one problem that we want to solve right now, and let's just start with that. So I'd say just start. Get your people on board, not just the guys in the team, because everyone in the team is kind of excited about Anaplan right now. Oh, these graphs are so nice looking and, whatever. Look at that, the pie charts, it's amazing for those that use pie charts. So the guys on the project are excited about it, but the guy doing the production planning, I don't know how many people you are actually in mining, but the guys doing production planning, they're less excited about a new system right now. Okay, they barely getting through their life of mine models and etc. But if you can get those guys to buy in, that's when it's really gonna turn your business upside down and be really powerful for you.
So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much to the panel members for your insights, for your willingness to engage, and for the open discussions. And thank you to the audience for being here today. I hope you found the session insightful. Thanks all. Thank you for listening to this episode of Deloitte Green Dot Conversations. For more conversations, please visit www.deloitte.co.za.